Friendship can feel like family, where your friend's mother becomes like a second mom to you. But what happens when a friend begins to look at his friend's mother in a disturbing way? Today's story is one of the most horrific cases you have ever heard. In the year 2017, on May 18th, a young boy named Hymont, who was just 17 years old, had his heart set on buying a secondhand bike. He was determined to get $500 from his father to make this purchase. Hymont had already spoken to the bike seller and made a deal. All he needed was the money, and he would be off to get his dream bike. Hymont told his dad he found a second-hand bike for $500, and the documents looked fine. He asked, "Should I buy it?" His dad agreed, knowing Hymont had been wanting a bike for a long time. His father finally gave him the money. Full of excitement and energy, Hymont gathered his friends and headed out to pick up the bike. It felt like the perfect day, filled with hope and the thrill of getting his own ride at last. But as the hours passed, a strange silence settled over the house. Hymont hadn't returned. His father, expecting him home after a short ride with the bike, grew increasingly uneasy. He picked up his phone and tried calling Hymont, but to his shock, the phone was switched off. He tried again, hoping it was just a signal issue or that Hymont would call back. But each call went unanswered, and the same cold silence of a deadline echoed in his ears. As the evening turned into night, Hymont's father grew more and more anxious. He couldn't shake off the growing fear that something wasn't right. With worry clouding his mind, he rushed to the Guna police station to report his son's disappearance. He explained to the police how Hymont had taken $500 to buy a bike and hadn't come back, and now his phone was switched off. The police, however, were not immediately alarmed. They thought Hymont might be out enjoying with his friends after getting the bike, perhaps on a long ride. They assumed it was just a teenager having a bit of fun and told the father not to worry. They assured him that Hymont would probably return home soon. But the hours continued to tick by, and Hymont still did not come home. The very next day, Hymont's father got a call from Hymont's phone, but it wasn't Hymont speaking. Instead, a different man with a deep voice was on the line. The stranger demanded $60,000 to return Hymont safely. He also warned Hymont's father not to tell anyone, not even the police, or there would be consequences. Hymont's father, terrified for his son's life, agreed to gather the $60,000 as quickly as possible. He pleaded with the caller not to hurt Hymont. As soon as the call ended, Hymont's father rushed to the police station and told them everything. The situation had now turned into a serious kidnapping case of a 17-year-old boy. The police launched an immediate investigation, but despite their hard work, they couldn't find any solid leads. Just 2 days later, the police got a call from an unknown number. The caller told them that the body of a boy was lying under the Patel Nagar railway bridge, burned so badly it was impossible to identify. With this new information, the police became very alert. They started to think that the body might be Hymont, the missing boy they were looking for. But when they arrived at the scene and recovered the body, they realized it wasn't Hymont. It was his friend, Ritik. This unexpected discovery turned the case in a completely new direction, leaving the police puzzled and uncertain. Hymont had been kidnapped, but shockingly, just 2 days later, it wasn't Hymont's body that was discovered. It was his friend Ritik's. The body was badly burned and unrecognizable, adding a chilling layer to the case. What was really going on? Who was behind this? Was it a single person? Or was there a group plotting in the shadows? The truth was a tangled web, and no one had any answers yet. The mystery continued to deepen. This story follows a group of 5 teenage friends: Hymont, Lokesh, Ritik, Sanskar, and Hani Dubey. They were all very close, always looking out for each other no matter what. Hymont came from a wealthy background, as his father, Antar Singh Meena, held a good job in the irrigation department. Things took a strange turn when next day, his father received a terrifying ransom call. demanding money for Hymont's safe return. The family rushed to the police station, and the police quickly tracked the phone number used for the ransom call to a location in Indore, about 155 miles away from Guna. Despite going all the way to Indore and searching the surrounding areas, the police couldn't find any solid leads. It seemed like the person behind this whole situation was cleverly staying one step ahead, purposely trying to throw the police off track. As days went by, the search for Hymont seemed to hit a dead end. Another team of police officers was busy showing his photo around different neighborhoods, hoping someone might recognize him or offer a clue about his disappearance. But unfortunately, all their efforts led nowhere. No one had any useful information to share. 2 days passed like this, with no progress at all. Frustrated, the police decided to dig deeper and approached Hymont's father for more thorough questioning. They hoped he might provide some insight into Hymont's recent activities or connections that could lead to a breakthrough. During the questioning, Hymont's father revealed something crucial. Hymont had gone out with 4 of his friends to buy a new motorcycle the day he disappeared. But that wasn't all. Another key piece of information involved a woman named Poonam Dubey, who was the mother of one of Hymont's close friends, Honey Dubey. According to Hymont's father, Hymont often spent time at their house. However, there was something that troubled Hymont's father deeply. He had noticed over time that Poonam Dubey's home was frequently visited by people he considered suspicious, individuals he didn't trust at all. This made him uncomfortable, and he had warned Hymont many times to stay away from her house, fearing that something bad might happen. Despite these warnings, Hymont continued to visit. With this new detail, the police shifted their focus to Hymont's 4 friends. As they started looking into them, they found a crucial clue. While 3 of the friends were at home, one of them, Ritik, was missing. This raised the possibility that Ritik could be involved in Hymont's disappearance. As I already mentioned, the investigation hit a grim twist when Ritik's burned body was discovered under a railway bridge. His neck and hands had been cut with a sharp object. This was a major break in the case. Ritik's wallet held a bus ticket from Patnapura, Indore, and the last location of the phone used to make the ransom call to Hymont's father also matched that area. This made it clear to the police that Hymont's friends were likely involved in his disappearance. Acting on this suspicion, they brought in 3 of his friends, Lokesh, Honey Dubey, and Sanskar, for questioning. Since all 3 were still minors, the police couldn't interrogate them too harshly, and without solid evidence to link them to the crime, the questioning didn't lead to any useful information. With no strong proof against them, the boys were released for now. Despite this, the police pressed on with their investigation, as Hymont was still missing. As the investigation unfolded, a shocking discovery came to light. Lokesh Lodi, another of Hymont's friends, had been murdered in the same brutal way as Ritik. His body was found in the forests of Nima, mirroring the previous crime and adding more layers to the mystery. At this point, it was clear that something far more dangerous was unfolding. The fact that Hymont's friends were being murdered one by one couldn't be a coincidence, especially since both Ritik and Lokesh were killed in the same violent manner. This pointed to a single person or group behind the murders. The police began to suspect that anyone with knowledge of Hymont's disappearance was being targeted to prevent them from speaking out. Wasting no time, the police turned their attention to Poonam Dubey. Evidence soon emerged that linked her directly to the case. One detail stood out. When Poonam was brought in for questioning, the police received calls from powerful individuals trying to defend her. This only deepened their suspicion, making it clear that something bigger was at play, with Poonam at the center of it. The police ramped up their questioning of Poonam, her son Honey, and his friend Sanskar, who was also close to Hymont. What unfolded during the interrogation was a deeply troubling and shocking revelation. But before moving forward, please give a like to this video and subscribe our channel. Thank you. From the information they gathered, it became clear that Poonam Dubey had always been driven by an insatiable thirst for wealth and luxury. She was willing to go to any lengths to satisfy her desires. Over time, she found herself entangled in illegal activities, and her home became a meeting place for powerful individuals with whom she had illicit ties. While life seemed to be running smoothly for Poonam, everything took a dark turn when her son Honey struck up a friendship with Hymont. As their bond deepened, Hymont began visiting Poonam's home more and more frequently, unknowingly stepping into a web of deceit and danger. When Poonam learned that Hymont's father held a high-ranking position in the irrigation department and was quite wealthy, her plans quickly shifted. She saw Hymont as a way to satisfy her greedy desires and began manipulating him to fall into her trap. Whenever Honey wasn't around, Hymont would visit, and over time, an inappropriate relationship formed between Hymont and Poonam, his friend's mother. Things escalated when Poonam, always looking for more, convinced Hymont to bring valuable items from his home. He managed to steal a large sum of money and even took his mother's gold earrings, which Poonam later pawned to a jeweler named Rakesh Soni for $3,000. The affair between Hymont and Poonam continued in secret, but secrets like this rarely stay hidden forever. Eventually, Honey Doobie discovered what was happening between his mother and his friend. The betrayal cut him deeply, and his once close bond with Hymont turned into bitter resentment. From that day forward, Honey couldn't shake the anger he felt, and all he could think about was finding the perfect moment to get revenge on Hymont for betraying his trust and dishonoring his family. The perfect moment arrived when Hymont, along with Honey Doobie, left home with money to purchase a motorcycle. Honey had secretly arranged for some of his other friends to meet them in the Nema forest under the guise of having a party to celebrate the new bike. He and Hymont rode to the forest together on Honey's scooter, where they began drinking beer. Sanskar wasn't there at the time, but Hymont still had a large sum of money on him. Honey used this cash as bait to pull Ritik and Lokesh into his plan. As the party continued, Honey waited for the right opportunity. When the moment came, he grabbed an empty beer bottle and struck Hymont on the head with it, delivering a brutal blow. The bottle shattered, leaving Hymont severely injured. After the bottle shattered, it became a dangerous weapon. Wasting no time, Honey Doobie viciously slashed at Hymont's neck and hands with the jagged edges. Hymont collapsed to the ground, writhing in agony. Seizing the opportunity, Honey took the $500 Hymont had brought. He and his friends, Ritik and Lokesh, split the money, with Honey keeping the larger share and giving the remaining portion to the others. Honey also took both of Hymont's phones, turned them off, and kept them. By the time they realized it, Hymont had stopped breathing. To cover their tracks, they used petrol to burn his body in the forest, hoping that even if it was found, it wouldn't be recognizable. After ensuring the deed was done, they all went back to their homes, leaving the horrific scene behind them. When Honey Doobie returned home, he confessed everything to his mother, Poonam Doobie. Determined to protect her son and cover up the crime, Poonam quickly came up with a new plan. She told Ritik to go to Indore and use Hymont's phone to call Hymont's father, demanding a ransom of $60,000. Enticed by the promise of money, Ritik followed her instructions without hesitation. However, this led to a new mystery. Who killed Ritik, and why? Poonam later revealed that when Ritik disappeared during the police investigation, it was because he had gone to Indore. The police had shifted all their suspicion onto him. Poonam feared that if the police caught Ritik, he would confess under pressure and expose everything. To prevent this, she decided to get rid of him. When Ritik returned from Indore, she sent him to a bridge under the pretense of another party with Honey. This time, Sanskar was also brought into the plan, tempted by the promise of money. Seeing the chance, Ritik ended up with the same sad fate as Hymont just days before. But one person from the group was still alive, Lokesh. Soon, Lokesh got restless and started asking for his share of the ransom money from Poonam. Growing more daring, Lokesh threatened to go to the police and tell them everything if he didn't get what he thought he deserved. Poonam and the others knew Lokesh was now a problem, and they had to keep him quiet. To get rid of the danger, they made another cruel plan. Lokesh was tricked into going back to the same forest where Hymont was killed. There, he was killed in the same cruel way as Hymont. His silence was guaranteed forever. In a chilling revelation, Poonam later confessed that if they hadn't been caught, Sanskar would have been next. Since he knew too much about the entire scheme, they had already planned to eliminate him to cover their tracks. Fortunately, before their murderous spree could continue, Hymont's body was discovered based on their confessions, putting an end to their deadly plot. Based on the overwhelming evidence and witness testimonies, Poonam Dubey and her underage son were both given life sentences in prison. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If you'd like to support us from your side, then hit the thanks button and send some love. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated.